you must say the title, the author, what was the other
The title, the author, the journal in which it was published, as well as the issue. So like fall 2007.
And the date.
Yeah, they don't ask for a specific date, but just like it's the fall 2007 issue. You'll see that when you find the article.
Okay.
So you've got hybrid identity, infusing the political into the personal, and narrativizing the political. Again, you want these taglines to be short enough so that the judges can write it down so they won't get lost. They can keep track of where your speech is. But at the same time, you also want them to be clear enough so that they get a sense of where you're going to be going. Because this is basically your roadmap for your point on the tenets here. And what you want to do when you get to actually explaining the tenets is you don't want to spend too much time on it. You want this to be a medium-length paragraph because you want to spend most of your time talking about the show or whatever your artifact is, as well as the lessons and the implications. So really, for each tenet, you want to give them 2 sentences. One, to explain the idea behind the tenet, and then the second, to give an example of it. So for instance, this communications journal article was about soap operas in South Africa. First sentence explained what hybrid identity meant. Then the second sentence gave an example of it in a soap opera. So you do all of that. It gives the judge a sense of what the article is about, a little more in depth, as well as how it works in actuality. So you get both the theoretical and the use of it explained to them. Any questions? And then what you need to do is your second is pretty much, it's the same structure, except you don't have to explain the tenets as much because you already gave it over here. What you do is you apply them to the show or to your artifact. You apply these to each one. So I had 3 tenets. So you need the number of tenets that you have. You also need to address those over here. You can't drop one, you can't add one. It needs to stay the same. It goes across the board for these 2 points right here. So, and it's always good to have specific examples. If you do a TV show, if you do a commercial, or an ad campaign, you want to give a specific example. So like for an ad campaign, let's say hybrid identity was dealing with ads done in a magazine. You want to have a VA of that ad showing the hybrid identity. And the same is true for like narrativizing the political. But obviously I'm cross-applying multicultural rhetoric for television with campaign ads. But you want to be able to give the example in specificity. Do you have a question? All right. And at the end of each one, what you want to do, so let's say this was hybrid identity. You talk about the show, the end result there, and then kind of what it means. So, just to give you an example, what I'll do is I'll give you, from the opening moments of the first episode, there are multiple examples of hybrid identity. The most obvious is the place of worship. Mercy's Mosque is located in the same building as the Anglican Church. Midway through the first episode, the newly arrived imam, Amar Rashid, who had left his law practice in Toronto, is in the local diner. The owner, a female member of his mosque, is asking him what he wants to eat. Rashid wants a low-fat cappuccino. The diner does not even serve cappuccino. This back and forth illustrates the potential divides within the same religious community and the differences between people from urban and rural parts of a country. Amar and the mosque are examples of hybrid identity. So not only do you want to say, well, this is what happens, give basically example of what was going on in the show, but you want to have a little explanation Because if I just left it at the last line of the diner does not even serve cappuccino, you're leaving it up to the interpretation of the judge. This is about the effectiveness that you believe the artifact has. So you need to be clear in what the artifact is doing in regards to the tenants. So you don't want to go on for too long, but you need to be able to prove that the artifact is actually reaching the tenants that you have set up for it in the beginning of the speech. Let's skip ahead to, you need to answer the question. You can't have a research question and just leave it out there. The way that I did it was that you're applying the tenets to the speech, to the artifact itself, and then before the third point, the transition from the application of the tenets to the lessons or the implications there was where I answered the question. And you give a little reason why. You don't just say, restating the question, the answer is yes, and then here are the lessons we can learn. You give a little bit, for instance, the way I answered the question was Little Mosque on the Prairie is not a groundbreaking sitcom. It would fit comfortably in a television schedule of British comedies like Valley Kissingel. Not quite all in the Family or other shows that use comedy to break down misperceptions on race. Nevertheless, the situational comedy does not occur in a political vacuum. Can a television show alter the public's perception of an identity? In the case of Little Mosque on the Prairie, the answer is yes, but it reveals two critical implications. So that's how you transition from the show to the implications. And the implications come, for this speech, they were relatively simple. They came out of the show. They were, you need to talk about, you're talking about stereotypes. All stereotypes must be addressed. And then the other one was it forces a dialogue about the future of the Muslim community in the Western world. There are some speeches that address rhetorical implications, that go more into what this means also